Today we're explaining every single car engine sensor. For each one, we'll cover what it does, how it works, where it's located, and what happens if it fails. This is a long video covering 16 different sensors, so check the description for timestamps to jump to the ones you're interested in. Many engine sensors, while doing different jobs, work in similar ways. To make it easier to understand, I've grouped them into 5 categories: position, airflow, pressure, temperature, and others. We're starting right away with position sensors. If you care about protecting your vehicle with real facts instead of marketing hype, hit that subscribe button now. The crankshaft position sensor tells the EGT the exact position of the crankshaft. Since the piston's position is tied to the crankshaft, the ECU knows where each piston is. This allows it to time fuel injection and spark ignition perfectly. These sensors are usually either Hall effect or variable reluctance types. Both use electromagnetism to read a toothed trigger wheel. This wheel has one or more teeth missing. When a missing tooth passes the sensor, the signal changes, telling the EGT the crankshaft's precise position. The ECU also counts the teeth to calculate engine speed, or RPM. Every engine has one crankshaft, so it has one crankshaft position sensor. You'll find it near the trigger wheel, which is usually on the crankshaft pulley, the timing gear, or the flywheel. If this sensor fails completely, your engine won't start, or it will stall immediately. A partial failure can cause jerky acceleration, misfires, a rough idle, and bad gas mileage. Next is the camshaft position sensor. It does the same job as the crank sensor, but for the camshaft. While an engine can technically run with just a crank sensor, the cam sensor gives the ECU a more complete picture and helps verify the crank sensor's data. It allows for things like sequential fuel injection. It works on the same principles as the crank sensor, just reading a smaller trigger wheel on the camshaft. You'll usually find it on the cam cover. Failure symptoms are very similar to a bad crank sensor, either a no-start condition or poor engine performance. The throttle position sensor measures how far open the throttle plate is. When you press the gas pedal, you're opening this plate to let more air into the engine. The ECU uses this information to understand engine load and adjust fuel and ignition timing. Older sensors used a variable resistor connected to the throttle plate shaft. Different throttle positions would create different resistance outputs. Modern sensors are non-contact and use Hall effect or similar technologies. You will always find the throttle position sensor located on the throttle body itself. A failing sensor can cause unpredictable acceleration, where the car doesn't seem to respond correctly to your foot. It can also cause a high or low idle and difficulty starting. To inject the right amount of fuel, the ECU needs to know how much air is entering the engine. That's the job of the mass airflow or MAF sensor. Most MAF sensors are the hot wire or hot film type. They work by heating a tiny wire or film. As air flows over it, it cools down, which changes its electrical resistance. More airflow means more cooling and a bigger change in resistance. The sensor's electronics convert this change into a signal for the ECU. You'll find the EMAF sensor right after the air filter housing before the throttle body. If it fails completely, the engine won't start. If it's just dirty or starting to fail, it will send wrong information, leading to a rough idle, hesitation, poor mileage, and other running issues. On older vehicles, you might find an airflow meter, or AFM. Think of it like a little gatekeeper for your engine's air supply. As air rushes in, it pushes open a flap or a vane. The more air, the wider the flap opens. This movement is connected to a variable resistor, which sends a signal to the car's computer, the ECU, telling it exactly how much air is coming in. Simple, but effective. Now, most modern cars use a mass airflow sensor, or MAF. But there's another player in the game, the MAF sensor, which stands for manifold absolute pressure. Instead of measuring air volume directly like the AFM or MAF, the MAF sensor measures pressure inside the intake manifold. The logic is simple. More air in a closed space means more pressure. The MAF sensor uses a tiny silicon chip that flexes under pressure. This flexing changes its electrical charge, which the ECU then translates into an air mass calculation. Because it measures pressure right at the source, you'll always find the MAF sensor mounted somewhere on the intake manifold. Now, if you're tuning your car for more power, like adding a turbo or a supercharger, the stock MAF sensor might not be able to keep up. That's when you'll need an upgrade. Companies like AEM make high-quality, reliable MAF sensors for all sorts of performance builds. If you're boosting your engine, check out the links below to find the right one for your setup. Next, let's talk about one of the most critical sensors for your engine survival, the oil pressure sensor. This little guy's job is simple but vital. It measures the engine's oil pressure. Without enough oil pressure, your engine can suffer catastrophic failure in seconds. It works much like the MAP sensor, using a pressure-sensitive element to report back to the AQ. On some cars, it's not even a sensor, but a simple switch. If there's enough pressure, a diaphragm flexes and closes a circuit, telling the system everything's okay. If the pressure drops, the circuit opens and that scary oil light pops up on your dash. That's your cue to shut the engine off immediately. You'll usually find this sensor screwed into the engine block, often near the oil filter. Moving on to the fuel system, we have the fuel pressure sensor. Why is this important? Well, the AQ needs to know the exact fuel pressure in the fuel rail to calculate how long to keep the injectors open. This ensures the perfect amount of fuel is delivered for optimal combustion. A failing fuel pressure sensor can cause hard starts, poor acceleration, and bad gas mileage. You'll almost always find it mounted directly on the fuel rail. Finally, let's talk about temperature. The intake air temperature sensor, or IAT, measures, you guessed it, the temperature of the air entering the engine. This is crucial because air density changes with temperature. Hotter air is less dense, meaning less oxygen. The IAT sensor works with the MAF or MAP to give the AQ a complete picture, helping it fine-tune the fuel mixture for better power, efficiency, and lower emissions. Most temperature sensors in a car, including the IAT, are thermistors. This just means their electrical resistance changes with temperature. The ECU reads this resistance to know how hot or cold the air is. The IAT is often built right into the MAF sensor housing, but if not, you'll find it in the intake tubing near the throttle body. Just like with MAP sensors, if you're building a high-performance engine, you might need a more robust IAT sensor. AEM offers easy-to-install, super-accurate IAT sensors perfect for race builds. The link for those is also down below. So let's proceed with the coolant temperature sensor. This little guy is crucial for the engine's computer, the ECU, because it tells it how hot the engine is. A cold engine needs more fuel than a hot one, so this sensor helps get that mix just right. It also triggers things like your radiator fans, or if the engine's overheating, it can put the car in limp home mode to protect it. You'll usually find it near the thermostat, right in the flow of the coolant. If it fails, your car might think it's always cold, chugging extra fuel and giving you bad mileage, or even black smoke. Or it might think it's always hot, giving you too little fuel, which can lead to misfires and knocking. Next up, the fuel temperature sensor. Just like air, fuel density changes with temperature. Hot fuel is less dense, so the AQ needs to know this to inject the right amount for perfect combustion and meet those strict emission standards. This sensor is often part of the fuel pump assembly in the tank. Honestly, your car can run pretty well with a faulty one, and you might not even notice any symptoms. At worst, you might fail an emissions test or see a slight dip in mileage and performance. What about oil temperature? While many cars just have an oil pressure sensor, knowing the oil's temperature is a great safety feature. If oil gets too hot, it thins out and can't lubricate properly, which is a recipe for engine disaster. By monitoring this, the ECU can step in and protect the engine. The sensor is usually on the engine block, right in the oil's path. If it fails, it could either falsely trigger a safety mode, or worse, not warn you about dangerously high temperatures. If you have an oil temp gauge, a faulty sensor is super easy to spot. Now, for a really important one, the oxygen sensor or O2 sensor. It lives in your exhaust and measures how much oxygen is left after combustion. This tells the AQ the exact air-to-fuel ratio, which is critical for performance and emissions. There are two main types: narrowband, which just says rich or lean, and wideband, which gives the AQ the exact numbers. Most cars have at least two O2 sensors. The upstream one, right after the engine, measures the initial mix. The downstream one, after the catalytic converter, checks if the converter is doing its job cleaning up the exhaust. A bad O2 sensor can cause anything from a slightly rough idle to your car refusing to start. And if your engine runs too rich for too long, it can destroy your expensive catalytic converter. That's why it's best to replace a bad sensor as soon as you can. Let's talk about the EGT, or exhaust gas temperature sensor. As the name says, it measures the temperature of your exhaust. This temperature is directly related to your air-fuel ratio. While not super common on gasoline cars, they're vital on modern diesels. They help with the regeneration of the diesel particulate filter, or DPF, and protect other emission systems. You'll find the EGT probe right in the exhaust manifold, close to the engine, to get the most accurate reading. If it fails on a diesel, you might notice the DPF regeneration happening too often or lasting too long, along with poor mileage. Then we have NOx sensors, which measure nitrogen oxides in the exhaust. These are mainly found on diesel vehicles to make sure the selective catalyst reduction, or SCR system, is working. This system injects a special fluid to convert harmful nitrogen oxides into harmless nitrogen and water. A failure here will almost certainly put a modern diesel into limp mode. Finally, the NOx sensor. This is basically a tiny microphone tuned to listen for a specific sound, engine knock. Knock is an abnormal combustion that can seriously damage your engine. If the sensor hears knock, it tells the ECU to immediately adjust timing or fuel to stop it. It's usually bolted directly to the engine block. Interestingly, if a knock sensor fails, you might not notice any change in how the car drives, but you'll get a check engine light. The car will simply run a safer, more conservative engine map to protect itself. And that as a quick tour of some of the key sensors working behind the scenes to keep your car running smoothly and efficiently. On newer cars, things are a little different. When the ECU detects that the knock sensor has failed, it will often put the car into limp mode, and it'll stay that way until you get a new sensor installed. And there you have it, a rundown of all the major engine sensors. Well, probably not all of them. The number of sensors on modern cars is growing like crazy. Honestly, by the time I finished filming this, someone probably invented a brand new one. So if I missed any important sensors, definitely drop a comment and let me know. Also, if you'd like a super detailed, deep dive video on any specific sensor we talked about today, tell me about that too. I'd love to make it for you. Anyway, that's pretty much it for today. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.